Welcome back to episode 108 of the Guardian Project podcast. I'm your host, Andy, and Coyle. The reason I usually make it to the late game is because of my power of persuasion.
Oh, that's good. It's very important. Convincing the rest of the table that you're not the threat, Andy.
Quick, you guys, look, Coyle's a problem. It's not me.
I'm never the problem. No, I'm sometimes the problem. And I'm your other host, Mike Coyle, and there's a new Naya commander out there named Minx, and I kind of feel bad for his hamster. I just feel like people are going to chump block him with all the time. It might as well be called minced meat.
Please listen carefully.
Minsk meat. Yep. Boo is adorable, and we're going to talk about it. But this is the podcast where we talk about all things Magic the Gathering.
But mostly Commander. Starting off, we have a couple announcements. Wizards of the Coast announced that there is going to be a little bit of an availability issue for some of the adventures of the Forgotten Realms and beyond. They said, we recognize that fans around the world are looking for more Magic the Gathering everywhere they shop and have faced some difficulties finding some products. We understand that this can be frustrating. Wizards of the Coast is hard at work to meet the continued demand for Magic as we look ahead to releases in 2021 and beyond. To that end, availability of Dungeons & Dragons, Adventures in the Forgotten Realms set boosters and draft boosters may be somewhat limited in the United States and Canada during the week of pre-release and release. While we anticipate some slight shortfalls, these products are not limited releases, and customers should expect these products to remain available as we continue to deliver set boosters and draft boosters leading up to and after release. Additionally, we do not expect pre-release packs to be impacted at all. So really, it's
only nothing really that we haven't seen recently, right? You know, I think this is just saying it's happening again. So just please don't be upset. Like we get it. We're working on it.
I did hear someone say online, and I do agree with them, that it seems odd that draft and set boosters are behind and Commander products aren't, because those seem to be a more difficult product to produce. So there must be something, internally going on there. But I'm pretty happy that at least the Commander products are going to hit the shelves. Collector boosters are going to hit the shelves at the same time too. I didn't get any, but maybe that and pre-release packs are going to have to suffice.
We just started pre-ordering though, like literally this week, right? I mean, pre-orders didn't start until this week, which is funny because we just opened Modern Horizons 2.
Yeah,
so
I still have piles of it in front of me right now, actually.
Yeah. And we also want to say welcome to Alexis Jackson, a new patron. Thank you so much for supporting our show. Your portion of the project is due tomorrow.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, wow.
The project has been going on for a long time. No, okay, maybe it's 2 days.
Join the group late, but the deadline don't change.
The teacher didn't give us an extension, so you got to complete it soon.
Oops.
Right? Oops. So thank you so much. If you too would like to be given an assignment due in 2 days, you can also become a patron at patreon.com/guardianprojectpod and donate for any dollar amount.
And if you're looking for any other way to support the podcast, whatever platform you are enjoying the podcast on now, if you could subscribe, rate, and review, we would be most appreciative. And especially if you're on YouTube, drop a comment in the comment section. We love interacting with people in the comments.
Yeah, and did you know that you can find us at theguardianprojectpodcast.com? You can also find our social media accounts on Twitter at GuardianPod and our gameplay videos on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/theguardianproject. You can also email us at guardianprojectpod@gmail.com. We love to hear from you. Coyle, what is the agenda this week?
This week we are going to talk about Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. So we finally got to see all of the cards that the set has to offer, and we're going to talk about our favorite cards that we're going to be adding to decks that we have. We have some reoccurring decks that we love bringing up, some new staples that we're going to be putting in, and then maybe some new Commander decks we're going to build around some of the legendary creatures that we see here.
Exactly. All right, well, I think it's time to get into it, and we're going to split the party.
Oh, no.
So it does sound like we're doing another show, and it might sound like the episode we did about 4 weeks ago. But we have another set that just came out or is coming out, Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. So before we do that, this is the D&D crossover set. We thought it would be a good time in the show to talk about our experiences with D&D. So Coyle, you've been playing for a lot longer than me, but I'll start real quick. I have only played D&D for about 3 years now. We had a campaign with some friends that ended last year. Yeah, last year. Yep. Ended before the pandemic, right?
It was, yeah. So actually it was.
Yeah, so it ended almost 2 years ago then. Yeah, it's been a long time. And now we're in a campaign. We're in a Ravnica campaign that you're running. We've only been doing that for what, about like 5 months now? I think so, something like that.
It's been 4 sessions, I think. But so yeah.
Okay, 4 sessions. Yes, we play that once a month. But my experience with D&D is pretty limited. Every time I play a new character that I didn't know how to play before. But my go-to move or spell is Tidal Wave, but my current character doesn't have that, so I don't know how to play very well. But a lot of these cards, as they were coming out, I did not recognize. They meant really nothing to me. But then there were a couple of namesake characters that when they were previewed, I go, oh, that's the name of a book, or that dungeon is the name of one of the books that we own. What is your experience with D&D going into this set?
So I've been playing D&D on and off for like 12 to 13 years now.
Yeah.
And I started with Pathfinder, which is the Dungeons and Dragons 3rd edition, but it's 3.5. So it's like its own game that isn't technically supported by Wizards of the Coast. I think New Pathfinder is supported by Wizards of the Coast now, but I haven't played New Pathfinder. But anyways, that was where I started. And unlike Andy, I play the exact same character no matter what. And it's a rogue that steals things and has secrets from everybody. And even if I'm playing a bard, it's really a shadow class bard that's a rogue, or anything else that's really just a rogue. So
this is true, and I have a hard time knowing a secret in real life, but not knowing it in the game and trying to play around that. That is the one thing that I realized. But it was fun. I don't, like I said, not a ton of experience, but I recognize a lot of the cards here. So as we get into the set, I was certainly able to go, oh, I had one of those, like the Bag of Holding. Obviously, that's not from this set. That came out previously, but it's when that card was preview. Is it in the set again? Bag of Holding?
Yeah, it is. It is. Yep.
Oh, it was reprinted. Oh, you're right. So I recognized that when we first saw it. There's a couple of items here that I recognized as well, and especially the dungeons. I recognize some of the names, but the Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. Quick summary of the set before we get into it. We have some new mechanics here. Venture into the dungeons. There are 3 different dungeons. They don't go into your deck. They really sit outside the game, and they're played in like their own version of a command zone. And in Commander, they are played in the command zone. There is a Lost Mine of Phandelver, Dungeon of the Mad Mage, and Tomb of Annihilation. So there are actual cards that when you cast them, they tell you to do something that will let you venture into the dungeon. So for example, there's a card called You Find a Cursed Idol, and it says create a treasure token and venture into the dungeon. It has another option, 2 other options, but that one allows you to venture in. So you can enter into these dungeons. Each of these dungeons allows you to do something, as you progress through them. Some of them let you scry, some make goblins, some have each opponent lose a life and then you gain a life. So you can complete these dungeons. There's cards that care about it. So it's pretty cool. It reminds me very much of a mechanic like energy that really only cares about these though, it's not really going to work with a ton of cards. But when it works, right?
For sure.
And then we also have Pack Tactics. It's an ability keyword that causes an effect whenever creatures attack with total power of 6 or greater. And then aside from Pack Tactics, the set adopts a very loose approach to ability words, which are used to represent themed actions or monster abilities instead of grouping similarly functioning cards. So the same card, you find a cursed idol. It says choose one. And instead of it just saying destroy target artifact, destroy target enchantment, or create a treasure token and venture into the dungeon, it says it kind of gives you some flavor. So you can choose one. You can either smash it, you can lift a curse, or seal its eyes. It's really just giving flavor to really the cards, which is pretty cool.
I actually really like it, especially to go along with the next mechanic, which is dice rolling. If you're familiar with D&D, having advantage on a dice roll means you get to take 2 dice rolls and take the better of the 2 rolls. And actually, there's a creature that grants advantage as the ability to allow you to roll 2 dice and take the better of the 2 dice rolls in the set as well. So dice rolling is the other mechanic here. There's a lot of instant sorceries creatures that have an extra ability on enter the battlefield, or as it swings, or again, just as part of the resolution of the ability and instant speed, that allow you to randomize your result. I know there's also a treasure chest where if you roll a 1, you actually take damage. So there's actually some bad things you can get from results. It's not always good or better, but in most cases, it is something either good or better.
Exactly. The set also introduces a new enchantment type. These are classes. So it's almost like a level up enchantment. So you can take a class in Bard or a class in Druid. And each of those classes have their own abilities. Some say when you take this level or you get to this level, something happens, or there's static abilities on some of them. I like those a lot. I've wanted level up, and this kind of satisfied my desire for. It's not exactly level up, but it feels like level up, right? You have an enchantment that can do 3 different things depending on the level you're at.
It's technically harder to remove level up, which is cool. We're not going to see any extra turns or anything on these level up creatures, so it's not broken and by any means. But having it harder to remove is really, really nice.
Yeah. We also get some new creature types. We get Bard, Gnoll, Halfling, Tiefling, Hamster. And then Citizen is a creature type that's coming to Black Border for the first time. And also Beholder is coming to Black Border for the first time. We'll talk about the Hamster. There's only one. It's cool. It's very cool. But these are all creature types that I actually recognized, like as we were going through this list. You know, none of these seemed crazy. I recognize these from playing D&D over the last 3 years.
Yeah, and there's also some new Planeswalker creature types, which I know you'll probably at least recognize one of these, Andy. So there's a Bahamut, a Mordenkainen, an Eliwick, Lolth, and Zariel Planeswalker types.
I recognize 2. So Mordekainen I only knew because there's a book. Isn't it called Mordekaine's Tome of Foes? Is that or is it just called Tome of Foes?
I'm not actually sure.
I might be making this up now, but I recognize Loth because that was one of the characters in our D&D set.
Yes, that I fell prey to and got super spider powers. I was Spider-Man. It was pretty cool. But Mordenkainen has a very famous watchdog that people don't know whether or not someone actually had the material components to make, or if they had actually cast it.
Yeah, Coyle told me before the show I should mention Mountain Dew here. And then people will think that I'm in on the joke that I have never heard of. I believe it's funny. If you understood that joke, you're part of the club.
If you understood the joke, go to our YouTube channel. If you're not already watching, leave a comment that says that you understood the joke.
Please. Okay, I was right. It is Mordekaine's Tome of Foes. So I was right. See, I recognize some of these things.
There you go.
And then also, we are getting new cards with showcase card frames, and they are like the old D&D monster manuals is what all of these cards look like. They're not really doing anything for me because I didn't have that nostalgia to fall back on. Mm-hmm. But online, people are going crazy because they're like, this is exactly what I remember from my childhood, from teens, from when I was in college, from whenever it was that they played D&D. They love these card frames. They're cool. I don't have a preference. If I opened either, I think I'd be happy with them.
Yeah, I think it is really cool artwork. And I do actually also like, I think we talked about it in a previous episode, that in the set boosters on the art frame cards for the D&D creatures and stuff, they're going to have on the alternate side like a stat block and everything like it is in Dungeons and Dragons for those creatures. So I know there's a lot of people already looking forward to getting a collection of those cards just to play D&D with. So something for everybody.
Yeah, and we're also seeing, also for the first time, is flavor text on basic lands.
Oh,
so and those are really, really cool.
Now,
so
you didn't have to.
They all say a little story. Oh, what was that?
So you didn't have to pay for the really long explanation. I guess those weren't flavor text. Those were reminder text basics in that secret layer, right?
Yes, those are the actual rules text of what those are.
Okay.
Yeah. So some of these are really cool. An island, it says, as your ship clears the edge of Waterdeep Harbor, you notice pirate sails on the horizon. What has made them so bold? It really adds a lot of flavor to the basic lands, which I will say I have probably always undervalued basic lands, just like artwork in general on basics, because I like to play specific basics. I usually play a full art basic. I like to play my unstable lands, but these are really cool. If you get these in foil, these are great.
I wonder if they're going to come in foil etched in the collectors or something. I didn't look at the collector's breakdown for Dungeons and Dragons set. I need to do that.
I am not sure, but if they do, those will be pretty valuable because these are really great, adding some story. So we're going to go through our normal episode like we do, and we're going to talk about cards we're specifically adding to commander decks that we play. And then, we have to talk about the cards that came out for Noyandar and for Shirei, right?
Of course
It's just the rules.
Yeah. I mean,
those are the rules.
The fact that there are multiple for both of our favorite commanders is pretty great, which means automatically the set gets at least an A. It can only go up from here.
Ooh, we don't do set ratings. Should we start doing set ratings on a scale of good for Shirei and Noyandar? You get an A.
Yeah, we only rate sets from A- to A+, and if they have our cards, it starts at A. All right. So the first card is Icing Death Frost Tyrant. So I want to play this in Niambi Esteemed Speaker. So I have a blue-white Legendary Matters deck, and this is a legendary creature dragon. It is a 4/3 flying vigilance dragon for 2 white that has, when Icing Death Frost Tyrant dies, create Icing Death Frost Tongue, a legendary white equipment artifact token with equipped creature gets +2/+0, and whenever equipped creature attacks, tap target creature defending player controls, it equips for 2. So 4/3 flying vigilance, that's fine. I just like having flying and vigilance, so that's great. It's legendary, so I can discard it to Niambi to draw 2 cards. It also, when it dies, I get an equipment that helps me with my card advantage, which is specifically something that I talked about in the deck tech. So if you're a patron and you saw my deck tech, I talked about legendary creatures that granted me card advantage. Icing Death really just helps with that because a lot of my creatures already have flying, so I'm likely to draw some cards when I swing with this. And the artwork's pretty cool. Yeah, and I'm just trying to think of it from a commander standpoint in the command zone. I do realize it's mono white, but having it out, letting it die with the commander dies trigger, and being able to get the equipment and actually bringing it back and then equipping it with its own tongue. Having a 6/3,
what you did is you put its tongue back in its mouth.
It's got 2 tongue. We reborned it with its original tongue, and it's got a necro tongue. So it's an icy necro tongue, Icing Death now. That's Icing Death. See? Frozen
Icing necro tongue. Should we call this episode Icing Death 2 Tongue?
It's like getting your tongue stuck on a pole and you get lost forever and you die. Icing tongue. Icing Death tongue.
So we should redo Icing Death Frost, or no, we should put Icing Death into the Christmas story with its tongue on the pole.
Yes, perfect.
Exactly, perfect. If you do that, please tweet at us and give us that lovely image. So I'm excited to play with Icing Death, 4/3 flying, creature with vigilance, legendary, and a dragon. I mean, what more could you ask for?
Yeah, no, it's great. So the next card that I would like to talk about is also a legendary creature that I am going to be adding into the 99, and that is Grazilax Illithid Scholar. This is a legendary creature horror 3/2 for 1 blue. That says whenever a creature you control becomes blocked, you may return it to its owner's hand. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. So this particular deck is going to go in my Tetsuko Umezawa deck because it cares about unblockable creatures getting in to draw cards, but it has the added upside of a lot of people like to try to like remove Tetsuko when I declare attackers. Tetsuko Umezawa, if you don't know, if you have a creature with power or toughness 1 or less, those creatures are unblockable for you. So a lot of people will try to remove Tetsuko as I swing in with creatures, and then my creatures become blockable again. So Grazlox will allow these creatures to return back to my hand. I'll be able to recast them, which I do have some things that benefit from casting creatures in the deck. A lot of things that give me no maximum hand size in that deck, so I don't have to worry about having to discard anything down. So this card fits in really, really nicely, and it's a 3-drop, so it doesn't even fit the same slot as my commander or any of my really, really big cards in the deck. Definitely you should look at this, and there's probably some bounce shenanigans and forcing people to block shenanigans you can do with this as a commander or something. Could be interesting.
Yeah, I really like this in your Tetsuko deck. So there's a couple of cards that Coyle plays that, and it's been a while. I don't know if I played against Tetsuko this year even. I'd have to look at my tracking for that. But this card feels like it fits perfect because we can't block them anyway. And if you get that one stupid one that just keeps multiplying itself, you're gonna draw so many cards.
Oh yeah, and that's the secondary strategy. If you don't kill people with damage, then you kill people with mill by drawing cards with like Sphinx's tutelage like effects. So yeah, having another coastal piracy, but this one's on a creature, it's pretty great.
Yeah, no, that one is really, really cool. My next card here is Guardian of Faith. So Guardian of Faith is a 3/2 Spirit Knight with Flash and Vigilance for 1 white that says when Guardian of Faith enters the battlefield, any number of other target creatures you control phase out. Treat them and anything attached to them as though they don't exist until its controller's next end step. So this really reminds me of another card that pretty much cost the same thing. I mean, basically, called Teferi's Protection. For an instant, it says until your next turn, your life total can't change and you have protection from everything. All permanents you control phase out. So it's not exactly the same, right? My life total can change. I don't have protection from everything. But as far as all permanents, I'm using air quotes right now that you can't see. All permanents you control phase out. If you're basically running a creature heavy deck, your permanents are phasing out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can protect yourself from board wipes here, which is really, I think, why I would want this.
Yeah, there's a lot of decks out there that don't like running Eerie Interlude because their creatures come back, or they'll come back tapped if they haven't entered the battlefield, or they want things to stay equipped to them or something. And this is the answer to that. This is your board wipe protection without having to blink your creatures. So if that's something you want to do, some people want to blink. Maybe this is not for you, but it also is really good board wipe protection.
Imagine though, if that was also your strategy though, right? So you flash this in and then you have other things phase out, right? And then it doesn't say phase out until this leaves, right? And then maybe you can bounce Guardian of Faith to save itself.
Yeah, definitely.
And then you could just have some kind of bounce phasing strategy. I don't know. To be honest, I don't know if there's old phasing cards. Something that I might want to look into now. That say like when a permanent you control phases out, X happens.
Yeah, I think there is creatures that get bigger when things phase in and out,
which is pretty cool because this does say phase. So
this is going to enable phasing decks. Guardian of Faith. You've heard it here, first.
You heard it here first. Phasing decks, OP. Remove Guardian of Faith at all times. Yeah, so I'm excited to play this. I don't have a specific home for this deck. I just think it's a really good card. My humans deck, it's not a human. It is a Spirit Knight, so it didn't really fit there. It would have been cool if it was a human because this 100% would have gone in because I wouldn't have lost my tokens. Right. Things that bounce your creatures to your hand to protect them don't really work with that deck, so I can't play those cards. But I assume I will find a home for this card, and if not, I just think it's good, and I can't wait until somebody gets me with a Guardian of Faith, where I think I'm going to live for a turn, and then they phase them out, and then they take me out anyway.
Yeah. No, that'll be fun to see. Absolutely. So the next card that I want to talk about is I'm using this, I think, in a very unflavorful way, and I love it. So this is one of the class enchantments that we talked about, and it is my favorite class, the Rogue class. So for a blue and a black, you get an enchantment with level, like next gain, the gain level ability. So at level 1, which the enchantment comes in at, says whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, exile the top card of that player's library face down. You may look at it for as long as it remains exiled. For 1, a blue and a black, you can upgrade this enchantment to level 2 to give creatures you control menace. And then for 2, a blue and a black, after you've already upgraded to level 2, to bring it to level 3, you get the ability to play cards exiled with Rogue class, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast those spells. Now, I'm not playing this in a Rogue deck, but it probably would be pretty good in a Rogue deck. I'm playing this in a Zombies deck, because if I have 25 zombies swinging at you and I can not only do damage but also mill you for 25, my zombies could have menace for 5 mana permanently, which is amazing. And then I can start casting your spells for you too. Love this enchantment. It's amazing.
Yeah, I think these are really cool. I don't know if there's any specific class enchantments that I need to play in any of my decks. But I know that I've seen some Sig River Cutthroat decks that would really like this. It's not in for flavor wise Rogue. It's not an Edric Spy Master of Trust's Rogue colors.
Right.
But this is really flavorful. Another card that is not the easiest to play over webcam, but very easy to play in person.
Yeah, you don't. What about the Monk class, where you get to draw a card when you do your second spell per turn or something like that? It's blue-white enchantment.
Yeah. So Monk class says the second spell you cast each turn costs 1 less on the first level.
Okay.
Level 2 is when this class becomes 2. Level 2, return a non-land permanent to its owner's hand. And then level 3 is at the beginning of your upkeep, exile a top card of your library. And then for as long as it remains exiled, you may cast it as long as you cast another spell already this turn.
Oh, okay.
So it's card advantage.
But maybe in colors that don't really need more card advantage, like blue-white.
I'm not sure. This feels like it matters for limited or standard more than I think it matters for commander here.
Fair enough.
But there are other classes. I believe it's barbarian that does feel very commander, because on level 3 it just says creatures you control have haste.
That is pretty nice.
It costs 1 red. To get to level 2, it costs 2. To get to level 3, it costs 3. So for a total of 6 mana, you do end up getting an enchantment that says creatures you control have haste, but it cares about dice rolling, and then it pumps creatures with dice rolling. So I'm not sure if granting haste is something that you want to have redundancy in, but if it is, you can at least do it for 6 over time.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it personally. I think there's better answers for that.
I agree. There's already a lot of things that give creatures haste.
Yep.
So my next card here is an instant. It's a common called Feign Death. So for 1 black, you can give, it says for 1 black until end of turn, when target creature gains. When this creature dies, return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control with a +1/+1 counter on it. I had a really hard time reading what this card did just now. So I would like to play this in my Gerard Golgari Lichlord deck. So Gerard allows you to pay 3 and sacrifice creatures to have your opponents lose life equal to their power. So I'm always looking for ways to really reanimate creatures. Again, if you are a patron, I did a deck on Gerard too. Apparently, I just like to reanimate things in blue, white, and black, green. But having a card that allows me to do this for 1 mana is really strong to bring the creature back. The issue is you have to have 3 mana with Gerard, and sometimes it's very expensive to cast your creature and then also sacrifice it. Some of them, like Phyrexian Devourer, are expensive, and so because of that, you have an issue playing them and then also sacrificing them immediately. Phyrexian Devourer costs 6. But if I already cast it and then I sacrifice it for 3 and then pay 1 to bring it back and then maybe continue and do it again, that would be, it's really beneficial for that deck. Another one that I just recently got that I don't think we actually talked about on our last episode is Persist. For sorcery, it says return target non-legendary creature from your graveyard to the battlefield with a -1/-1 counter on it. So they aren't exactly the same, but they fit the same need in the deck. So I am having issues at this point cutting cards in Gerard. It's a good problem to have, is there's so many cards that you want to use, but this is perfect for 1 mana. It's great.
Yeah, it's like these type of cards. We have seen cards like these in the past for like the 1 mana or 2 mana, and they return tap to the +1/+1 counter. And those ones, it's not considered a reanimation spell or whatever because you're not targeting it in your graveyard. You're preemptively reanimating it in a way. But the really
it's
cool
even better though because they can't remove it. Well, I guess they can remove it, but they can still remove it. But yeah, I see your point.
But yeah, I mean, an even added benefit to that is it is cheaper than anything else. I mean, Animate, Dead, Persist. We just talked about all these. Reanimate is 1 mana, but you have to do a ton of life to do it. So these are cheaper mana-wise than anything. Cost-wise, these things are way cheaper than anything. I mean, Animate Dead is like a $10 card, and a Reanimate's like a $20 card. So this is definitely the way to go for like even a budget reanimation style.
This one is 50 cents as of right now. The set's not out. I assume it will end up being less than 50 cents.
Yeah, 50 cent common will go down in price for sure.
Pre-ordering at 50 cents though, you won't feel too bad if it goes down to 30.
Yeah, probably not. You got to skip that gumball when you walk into your LGS. Sorry about that.
Yes, exactly. That's gross. You ever think about that? How long those gumballs sit in those machines?
No, I don't think about it. Just pop in my mouth and start chewing.
Oh, wow. How many teeth have you broken from that?
Zero. But milk duds at Halloween, on a cold Halloween night, trying to eat a milk dud right out of that candy bag. That'll break a tooth.
It'll just rip it right out of your mouth.
That's right. Dentist's worst nightmare. All right, so the next card that I want to talk about, and I know, Andy, we had a little conversation about this card and its utility, whether it has it or not, is Treasure Vault. Treasure Vault is an artifact land. This is a rare. It taps for a colorless. It comes onto the battlefield untapped, I would like to say. Taps for a colorless, or you can pay XX and tap it and sacrifice it to create X treasure tokens. So for however much mana you pump into it, you get half that many treasure tokens. I am going to be playing this in my Abzan tokens deck, which features the commanders of Sidar Kondo and Nadir, the mono black elf that cares about tokens being sacrificed, and he gets +1/+1 counters on him. And treasure tokens are just really dumb with Nadir, so Treasure Vault works really well. I totally understand the fact that Treasure Vault is very vulnerable to artifact board wipes. It is not indestructible, and again, you only get half as much mana as you put into it, so you can consider it ramp. Maybe you want to play this in Gitrog Monster or something, just because you get to throw it into your graveyard for free if you want, because you could technically pay 0 for it. But other than that, yeah, I understand where you are coming from, Andy, in our conversation about being like vulnerable and maybe not worth the payoff.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I want this, right? So a lot of discussion I've seen is, if you have infinite mana, you can make infinite treasures. But if you have infinite mana, do you need infinite treasures? I guess if you're making infinite colorless,
yeah, it goes to
then you can make the color.
Mm-hmm.
So that's very cool. I do think it's just a cool card to make treasure tokens. If you have a deck that cares about artifacts and maybe sacrificing them, I'm not sure if there's how many. I believe Arkham Dagson actually looks for artifact creatures, right?
You sack artifact creatures to look for non-creature artifacts.
So you couldn't just, because I'm trying to think of commanders that just care about this. But I do have a new pirate deck that I had made that cares about the number of artifacts I have in some instances. So a treasure vault that I can, pay 6 mana and tap and sacrifice it to make 3 treasures just so I can get 3 more artifacts isn't nothing.
Right.
It's just kind of expensive. I think it's a cool card. I'm not sure how often we're going to see it. I think just being able to play with treasure tokens and seeing that we're getting treasure a lot more matters. And I guess you could play Rise and Shine with this from Modern Horizons 2 and turn all of those into 4/4s.
I just thought that this definitely does belong in Osgear decks if you have Osgear decks, because you can make 2 of them.
That's cool.
After sacrificing them for a bunch of treasure. So definitely it's an Osgear ad. I'm putting it in my Osgear list right now, opening up Architect.
You got to do it before you forget about it, right?
You have to.
Exactly. Well, while you're doing that, I'll talk about my next card then, which is a card that we saw quite a while ago. It was one of the cards that was previewed well before the set came out, which was Vorpal Sword. So this didn't mean anything to me, but
very famous.
It's a D&D thing.
Yes.
Yeah, that was told very famous, very good. So it's an artifact equipment for 1 black. That was equipped creature has +2/+0 and has Death Touch, and it equips for black. So I mean, +2/+0 and Death Touch. That's pretty cool. But it also has pay 5 black, so 8 total. And it says, until end of turn, Vorpal Sword gains. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, that player loses the game. So this is perfect for my Lazav the Multifarious deck, where I am trying to get in with unblockable or evasive strategies. So Lazav can turn into a creature that's in your graveyard. So you're kind of throwing things away and turning Lazav into them and trying to do some, tricksy combat things. And I am currently running a card that's very reminiscent of Vorpal Sword, Phage the Untouchable. Phage the Untouchable is a creature that says if it enters the battlefield, if you didn't cast it from your hand, you lose the game. So it makes it very tough to play in Commander. But it says when Phage deals combat damage to a creature, destroy that creature. And when Phage deals combat damage to a player, that player loses the game. So I'm running Phage the Untouchable already in my Lazav the Multifarious deck, and I've not made it happen. You have to pay X, where X is the CMC of the creature in the graveyard, to turn Lazav into that creature. So you have to pay 7, obviously, to turn it into Phage, but just getting Phage in the graveyard is a thing you have to do. So Vorpal Sword, I'd have to get into my hand and play it and equip it, but it doesn't even just have to be Lazav at this point. This can be any creature, right? Lazav is the only thing that can turn into Phage. This could just be this could be on Ornithopter. I could have an Ornithopter Vorpal Sword win.
That is correct. You definitely could.
It just seems really fun to try to do it. It's expensive. I don't know if it's that great, but I love these alternate win conditions of someone loses or someone wins. And if you already invested 1 black and then 2 black to equip, and then 5 more, that's 11 mana to just take one person out.
Or in a Keurig deck, it's 5 mana and 12 life. And I think that's worth it. But you won't necessarily get in. You don't have any evasion other than the Death Touch, but good luck.
But it's going to force them to block no matter what.
Oh, for sure. They have to. You got to block.
So it's a cool card. The sword, they whoever it is, beheaded some Gorgon. The artwork's pretty creepy. I like it a lot. So I would like to Vorpal Sword someone to death once to cross that off of my bucket list.
And then you'll take it out of your deck and never do it again, or just keep doing it?
No, I'll definitely do it again. It's just expensive, so I don't think it's going to happen very often.
Just start doing tally marks on your Vorpal Sword every single time you kill someone with it.
Ooh, I just make a notch on the actual artwork.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
All right. So the last card that we're going to talk about that are going into the 99 before we start going into our pet decks that I want to talk about is a creature that everyone saw and said, obviously this makes sense for mono green, and that is Old Gnawbone. Old Gnawbone is a 7 mana, 7/7 legendary creature dragon, so 5 green with flying that says whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, create that many treasure tokens. That's right. We got mono green making treasure tokens like crazy with this. So it doesn't say whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you create 1 treasure for each creature that deals damage or something. It's you create that many treasure tokens. Or it might be for each creature. I don't know exactly how this ruling is going to be. Obviously, we don't have judge rulings for it. Either way, if I'm getting a treasure token for each creature that does damage or for how much damage that's happening, and I can somehow have like 5 or 6 old Gnawbones at the same time, that's the strategy I want to go for. So I'm going to put it in my Sultai All-Stars deck, which is helmed by Ikra Shiriki and Sakashima of 1,000 Faces, which just tries to make as many of one copy of a legendary creature as possible. It uses a lot of mana, and Old Gnawbone apparently is going to get me to that a lot of mana after I get to 7 mana first. It's a really dumb good green creature.
I think it's a really good card. You're in the color green, so getting to 7 mana is like just blinking.
Yeah,
I mean,
turn 3, 4 maybe.
Oops. It's mono green, so it can go in green blue decks already. There's been quite the flurry of conversation online about Old Gnawbone being green and not being in white, and not white having its own thing. Now, I think maybe the reason why a lot of us associate Treasure with white is obviously because of Smothering Tithe. It's just a very, very good card for white. It's can be frustrating to play against, but I don't think it's an awful card. I think it's great. Like, I don't think it's a card that I would even take out of a deck at this point. I just really like it.
No, it's fine.
But Old Gnawbone is it's a funny name. It's on a dragon. It can be your commander. It's a legendary. But can you go ahead and read us the flavor text? I want to see if you know how to pronounce this, or if I'm just crazy here.
Okay, so I was looking at the other version of the cards. This is the first time I'm reading it.
Perfect.
The ancient green dragon, Clogylimatar. Clogylimatar is often seen with a mangled corpse dangling from her mouth.
Is that the same? Is Clogylimatar also just Old Gnawbone? Is this card referring to itself?
I assume so, but it's obviously it's got 2 names. Maybe we're gonna get a secret lair version of it named Clogylimatar. I just don't.
Welcome to the stage, Clogylimatar. Yeah. Someone listening to this is like, you guys are pronouncing this so wrong.
Oh, completely.
They're yelling at their phones right now. You guys, this is not difficult.
If we're pronouncing it wrong, I challenge you to leave a comment in the YouTube video comments. How about that? And if we're not, then we're right. If you don't, then we're right. And that's how the rules work.
If you don't, then we're okay, and then we know that we're right about how to pronounce it. Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
That was good. That was good. Cool. So where are you putting this card?
I'm putting it in my Sultai All-Stars deck to try to make as many copies of it as possible. The Ikra Shiriki and Sakashima of 1,000 Faces. So I have like 7 of them, and then make like 1 billion treasures. And if Ikra's out, I'll also gain 49 life, and I don't know, do something degenerate with the treasures. Maybe
I'm here for this. I love it, and you have to take
replication.
Screenshots and tweet about it as soon as you do it, because this is what we want to see. 6 Old Gnawbones, and then you could accidentally draw. Or no, you can't. You don't draw. You make the mana, but you could accidentally play all your cards.
Oh yeah,
what
easily.
a problem! What a problem to have.
Love it. Best problem.
All right, so we need to talk about whether or not there are cards for Shirei, Annoy, and Dar here. So why don't you go ahead and tell us about the cards you did find, because I see you've got 2 on your list. I also have 2 on my list.
Yeah. So I was able to find 2 cards that are going to slot perfectly into Shirei. One of them we have not seen the English version of yet. So we're only guessing on what the title of this card is, and that's Skullport Merchant. So Skullport Merchant is a 3-mana dwarf citizen that says when it enters the battlefield, you create a treasure token. You could pay 1 and a black to sacrifice another creature or a treasure to draw a card, and it is the most important part, power 1. With a toughness of 4. So it's a little bit harder to kill. It's got a nice butt to block things with. And the important part of being power 1 or less allows in my Shirei deck, I can kill it every turn, and it comes back at the end of every turn as long as Shirei remains on the battlefield. The 1 and a black to sacrifice another creature or treasure to draw a card is a nice addition.
I was going to say it's not necessary because you have a lot of free sack outlets, but if you don't have them, at least you have another sack outlet now, right?
If I have extra mana, I would rather use this ability than my free sack outlets because I get to draw cards in these instances.
Yeah, that's fair.
If I have treasures, I probably have the, I guess I will have the mana, right? I probably don't want to sacrifice my treasures, but it is a 3 mana card, which obviously that doesn't sound high to some people, but in Shirei, you want to be really low to the ground with a lot of your creatures to refill the board, because people are going to remove Shirei and you're going to have to refill your board with more creatures. So 3 mana maybe isn't there, but luckily we also got another card in the set that's only 1 mana, and that's Shambling Ghast. Shambling Ghast for 1 black. You get a 1/1 zombie. This is when Shambling Ghast dies, you choose one. You either brave the stench or search the body. So braving the stench is target creature and opponent controls gets -1/-1 until end of turn. Really wish this was any creature and not just an opponent's creature. It would have a lot more versatility in Shirei that way, for Grey Merchant of Asphodel specifically, to get him from 2 power to 1 power. But the other ability, Search the Body, you get to create a treasure token. So it's another creature that when it dies, you get a treasure token. We already had Glimmering Barrier, which is a 2 mana artifact. For 2 generic mana, when it dies, we get a treasure. So this is even better because it's only 1 mana, and we're going to be able to ramp out quicker. We can use this early and not care about it coming back to get Shirei out early. Very, very versatile card. Really love these 2 cards for Shirei editions. But Andy, you also got 2 cards for your pet deck, Noyandar.
I did. So Noyandar, if you are new to the show, Noyandar is a deck that relies on turning my lands into creatures and swinging with them. The nice thing is that if you have a creature that is a man land, meaning you can pay mana to turn it into a creature of some sort, and then it gets that base power and toughness plus the counters you've already put on it. Those are really the coolest things you can do with the deck, and I've got lots of those already, but we got 2 of those in this set, and they are being referred to as fast man lands, which is really nice because all of the creature lands, for the most part that we know, I'm not sure if it's literally all, but most, if not all, come into the battlefield tapped. These ones, Cave of the Frost Dragon and Hall of Storm Giants, both come into play tapped, really, unless you control 2 or more other lands. So if you control, really, if this is land number 1 or 2, it's coming in untapped. So that's really nice, being able to get that early. Is it always going to matter? Or is that always going to happen? No. In most cases, it's probably not going to happen and it'll come in tapped. But Cave of the Frost Dragon taps for white and has pay 4 and a white. It becomes a 3/4 white dragon creature with flying until end of turn. It's still a land. And then Hall of Storm Giants has the same clause. It comes in, if you control 2 or more other lands, it enters tapped. So, you can come in untapped if you control very few lands. It taps for a blue mana and has pay 5 and a blue to turn it into a 7/7 blue giant creature with ward 3. So that's cool. And then it's still a land. The flying one is far more beneficial here. Evasion is great. You don't really want your animated lands to die, because then not only did you lose a creature, you lost the mana you need to cast more spells to turn other lands into creatures. Both of these really, really great. I can't wait to play with these. I have a problem though, where I'm going to have to start looking at other lands to remove, because I can't remove every single basic that I have. I can't do it. And I'm already down to, I think, 5 of each.
All right, so you're going to have to cut your Tundra first. That one's got to go. That's fine.
No, the Tundra can stay.
When's the last time you animated the Tundra? Obviously, these are much better additions for Noyandar.
You never animate the Tundra, because then you're guaranteed it almost always stays out the whole game, and then you get to see the card that you spent some money on.
Yeah, that's very true. Very
true. 2 cards here. Now, looking at these commanders, that we didn't go through every single legendary, but we saw lots of new cards here. If we were to build new cards from or new commander decks from this set, I think the 2 that I was looking at is Minsk Beloved Ranger or Volo Guide to Monsters. So Minsk Beloved Ranger, it's in Naya, which I have one Naya deck that I really almost never play, but it says when it enters, you create Boo, a legendary 1/1 red hamster creature token with trample and haste, and you can pay X to give target creature you control base power and toughness XX, and then it becomes a giant, activate at sorcery speed only. So you make a small little hamster, which, by the way, adorable. Yeah. And then you can pay X to just make it huge. It has trample and haste, so if you have a way to just make it giant, that's really cool. But I've seen some strategies where people play effects where they gain control of your creature until end of turn, and then they pay 0 for X, and then they die.
Oh yeah,
that seems like a really neat sub theme in a deck like this. So you kind of remove their creatures by shrinking them. And then really the other one here is Volo Guide to Monsters. It's a human wizard, 2, a green and a blue, that says whenever you cast a creature spell that doesn't share a type with another creature you control, or a creature card in your graveyard, you copy it. So you're going to make that creature plus a token copy of that creature. So this is the opposite of tribal. Which is really a neat strategy to play with. I've seen lots of people talking about Volo. I just built a Simic deck. I'm not sure if I will, but this deck seems really fun. I think this is one we're going to see quite a bit. So those are the 2 that I think I would build if I were building one of a new commander deck from Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. How about you?
So I picked 2 other creatures to talk about, but I do already have a list going for Volo and a list going for Minsk to do those 2 strategies that you just talked about. So the other 2, if you want to look at those lists, I'll make them public for everyone to watch build. But yeah, the Naya Aristocrats seems like a really cool strategy to me with Minsk. But to be different, and because October's right around the corner, Andy, I decided that I know I said I was going to build something from Modern Horizons 2 before for my next mono red commander, but Delina Wild Mage kind of speaks to me on a whole nother level, and it kind of matches one of your commanders that you have in a way. So Delina,
this fits really well into Rionia Fire Dancer. But yeah, tell us what Delinia does.
So Delinia Wild Mage is a 4-mana elf shaman, 3 in a red, 3/2. It says whenever Delinia Wild Mage attacks, choose target creature you control, then roll a d20. On a roll from 1 to 14, you create a tapped and an attacking token that's a copy of that creature, except it's not legendary, and it has exiled this creature at end of combat. Or for a 15 to 20, you create one of those tokens and then roll again. So there is already a little bit of Oracle text, I guess, judge rulings on this, that it is a may. You don't have to roll again because you can get stuck in some loops if you start creating token copies of the creature that gives you advantage on your rolls, because you do have to take the better of the roll. You don't get to choose which roll you take. So yeah, you do have to be, I don't have to worry about that because I'm going to use Delinia as my commander, and that's in mono red, and the creature that gives you advantage is in blue. But I do really like the new rare from Modern Horizons 2, Harmonic Prodigy, which says whenever a wizard or shaman triggered ability triggers, it triggers an additional time. And Delinia being a shaman, I thought, oh, it would be cool if I could build this into a shaman and wizards enter the battlefield kind of tribal, or it's not really tribal, but shaman and wizard enter the battlefield effects. Try to take advantage of this this new card from Modern Horizons 2, along with things like I can't think of the artifact from Kaladesh, Panharmonicon, things like Panharmonicon. Take advantage of double triggers rather than doing what red normally does, which is like just burns people out and stuff. But I'm going to have a combustible Gearhawk in here too, and do that kind of stuff. The other deck I was thinking about was Oswald Fiddlebender. It's our new mono white legendary that people are talking about in kind of competitive lists. He does only cost 2 mana, so for 1 and a white, you get a 2/2 Gnome Artificer with an ability called Magical Tinkering. So you pay a white and tap it to sacrifice an artifact. You search your library for an artifact card with mana value equal to 1 plus the sacrifice artifact's mana value, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle, activate only as a sorcery. So this is mono white pod in a way, but for artifacts, or mono white Arkham Dagson, except you don't have to sacrifice artifact
creature.
Yeah,
this can just be an
creatures.
Artifact card. Yeah.
You don't get to play blue, you have to play white, but the fact that you have an artifact tutor with your commander, I think this is going to be a really good white deck. You can probably build it fair. I'm going to try to build it unfair first and then see what happens.
Yeah, this card seems fun. You can start a chain from treasure to whatever it is that you want.
Yep. There's something at every mana value.
Yeah, surprisingly, there's an artifact that has all of the mana values up to, I wonder what the highest is.
I wonder if there's like an interruption at like 11 or 12 or something like that.
Probably. But this is cool. I looked at this list or at this commander and immediately thought this is really fun. even if you just play this in a generic artifact deck as well, I mean, does this fit into Osgir as well? I mean, it just kind of makes sense, right?
Oh, for sure. Because you get to fill your graveyard and get a new artifact on the battlefield. Yeah, that's amazing for Osgir.
Yeah, this is really cool. Well, these were our thoughts on Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, and that brings us to the end of the episode. We want to thank you all for listening. If you want to contact us, you can find our podcast online at theguardianprojectpodcast.com. Actually, I already did all that, so I don't need to say all this again. You know where you can find us. But I'm on Twitter at ATFlory.
And I'm on Twitter at WormCoilEngine, and we want to give a special thanks to Ryan Nichols, our producer and editor. Thank you very much. And we want to give another special thanks to Chris Wolf, who takes care of our graphic design. He is our artist. He is our man. He is our rock. We love you, Chris. Thank you so much, and we will chat with y'all next week.
He's a rock.
Like a rock.
Oswald Fiddlebender.
This is a rock that you attach as an equipment to your creature, and you can fling it
And you
someone's
throw it
face.
with Togo.
That's right. Like a rock.